But the ladder at this time of the year is so intriguing, and we've been just dealing with the top 9 for a while. Just a reminder that this is the ladder if the Gold Coast Suns are to beat Essendon in the last round of the year. So we're assuming, we're sorry, Essendon fans, that they will. What's your hot take based on this? Who misses out, do you reckon, Hirdy?
Oh, look, it'll come down to that game next Sunday between Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs, and you'd have to say the odds are Fremantle will lose, but it's not a fait accompli that the Bulldogs will win. I think both teams playing well. Freo were able to come over here a few weeks ago and beat Collingwood, so they're a chance against the Western Bulldogs, but it is staggering to think one of those 9 teams will miss the finals after the years they've had.
Yeah, and the Dogs, just going on from the Dogs, 14 wins, a percentage of 140, and you don't make it. And so, look, it's shown that they've been far too good for all the sides below them. They've been super competitive. Freo, it'd be fascinating if they miss out. Again, 15 wins off the back of that. We know that the Giants could technically miss, but they need a result where something like they lose by 90 points against the Saints, and the Saints kick over 100. But it's pretty much, I think it's going to be that Freo Western Bulldogs game, which we'll be watching very keenly next week. And
as interesting is the top 4. I mean, the top 4 is really, you still need to get there, I think, to win it. Obviously, the Western Bulldogs have proven that's not the case, and so is Brisbane. But that top 4 position with Collingwood, Hawthorn and the Gold Coast, and I think even the Giants can slip into that top 4 spot, because Collingwood, really, their free fall in the last 6 rounds has been quite staggering.
So, of the Dogs, the Gold Coast Suns and Freo, which of those teams do you think is least likely to do damage in finals? Because those 3 teams are battling for 2 spots.
I think Dogs and Freo probably will do more. I just think the Gold Coast is still young. I think they deserve their spot in the 8 if they make it, but I just think with the youth in their team and having not made it before, they do the least damage.
I think what that ladder's pointing out to is everyone can do damage. It's going to turn into the tennis championship where, depending on your matchup, we saw the Giants play the Dogs only a few weeks ago and get lit up because of the midfield depth of the Dogs. So it's who matches up who really well, because there's only 3 games separating pretty much top from 9th.
Yeah, so Collingwood can finish as high as 3rd and as low as 8th. They had a close loss to the Adelaide Crows last night. What it means, Hirdy, is they've lost 5 of their last 6. Yeah. And yes, a lot of them are close losses, aside from really the game against the Hawks. But it's put their season in jeopardy, and it means they could be playing an elimination final in 3 weeks' time. Can you diagnose the issues for us, please?
I think there's 2 things for Collingwood. I think their defence, not their back 6, but the way they defend the ground. Typically what Collingwood have loved to do is their long down the line method has been the best in the competition. They really love to defensively get you to kick down the line or an attack dudes down the line. Keep the ball skinny, keep the ball on the skinny side of the ground and not let the ground get too big. What teams have worked out, what Brisbane worked out, what Hawthorn have worked out, what Fremantle worked out, what Adelaide worked out to a certain extent, is how to get the ball out of that bubble that they keep and take the ball off the line and expand the ground so Collingwood have to defend more of the ground. That just means Collingwood have really been a lot harder to actually get the ball long down the line. You watch teams against Collingwood now, they're hesitant to kick it long down the line where they've got a real advantage. But you watch this Adelaide play here, really keen to get the ball, change the angle. See how that change the angles opens up the whole ground, and the entries in the forward line become much easier for the forward players. It's not all perfect, doesn't come off well, but just even this little 45 kick here, the ball goes out the other side. That's shifting the Collingwood defenders behind the ball and make it really hard to defend.
And because Collingwood keep their lane so well, so when they're attacking and also defending, they keep the outside set. And the ones you've shown there, Hirdy, it's the willingness for a player to be brave and come back through Collingwood. So a lot of these balls, look at this, this is coming back into the corridor.
It's actually a mistake.
It's a mistake, but look at the numbers that are expecting you to bring the ball back through the middle. So in the first couple of edits, it's that player either using their feet to get through the front, but look at it, it's almost coming between the 2 Toyota logos, is that channel that you can get through there, which then forces a defence which likes to zone off, and Darcy Moore has been criticised, but others as well. If they've got the middle of the ground, they're looking up inside forward 50, and you're playing a zoning defence, it's very hard to stop the opposition.
So why is it that works against Collingwood specifically? Because you would have thought changing lanes would work against everyone.
Because they're so disciplined with their structure. So even when you look at Collingwood, if they're in their back 50 and they're under pressure, you watch them turn boundary really hard because it's a half forward and half forward, almost on the junction, the 50. Everyone keeps their lanes and channeled. It's really actually something to admire how well drilled they are. But if you're brave enough and if you can get through the Collingwood pressure... Now, let's not forget, as you touched on, Tom, they've had 3-point, 1-point, 6-point, 3-point loss to all top 8 sides. And they've still won a lot of games this year.
Yeah. If you drew a line down the middle of the ground, right, and Collingwood have you here. They do everything they can to keep the ball in this part of the ground. If you can get it over here, where there's not the density of players, as Jimmy said, they're so disciplined. Other teams aren't as disciplined, so they're a lot harder to spread. It's a way of, and we admired Collingwood during the year from how to do it, whether it was in attack or in defence. Teams have gone to school on them a little bit, but as Jimmy said, they're not out of it. It's just been they need to adjust a little bit.
The key thing with all those Adelaide edits is once you get that one back into the corridor, don't keep going. So you've actually broken a bubble or a bit of a structure. So you get that one in the middle, turn and face your goal, because you'll get a good look. It's when sides do the first switch kick, they just keep going, and so then you actually allowed the opposition to come swing back. So get the first one and then be real proactive. Yeah,
I totally agree with you, Jimmy. I think the other thing, Tom, we've been talking about with Collingwood, that's their defence. In attack, it's their forward line that really is not working. And you saw against Adelaide have a very good three-man defence where they can lay off and they can actually intercept markers. But if you look at this Collingwood stats here, their key forwards aren't marking the ball. Jamie Elliott's their highest goal kicker. He has a great year. They need more out of Jordan Ngoe. As now he comes back from injury, obviously missing Bobby Hill. But if you're not getting any marks by your three keys, it makes it very hard. We're under pressure to kick the ball in. Collingwood need the ball to come in a really nice way so that their small forwards can excel. And I'm glad you picked that up, because when I was watching Saturday night, I know some tricky conditions, and we saw the huge number of inside forward 50s that the Pies had. But when you're watching it, was it the bit of the chaos ball? So not that it's a weakness of the Crows' defence, but they are 11th for ground balls in their back 50. So I love this play from Collingwood. This is shifting the angles. It's being really smart with your ball use. I want to see more of this, because this is where you get the marks. But when they're under pressure, it's extraordinary these actually landed in their teammates' hands. But that's saying to me, even though it was a mark, kick it to space. And you know the catchword net, or the catchwords dirty ball. This is Pendles kicking in an end over end there, which still works out because it's Pendles. But the intent was, like, let's get it into a bit of space, let's hit the ground, because if you kick long and high, with our forwards not marking the ball so well, but it's actually a reflection of Adelaide's really good team defence. Yeah, well, I mean, Worrell, Keane, Murray, they're key defenders on the weekend. They really want to take them out of the game. But the issue for Collingwood is they're going to have, you know, Brisbane, Geelong, Adelaide, Hawthorn, and GWS in the final series. Five of those teams have three fantastic defenders who can lay off. So they're going to have to work out, instead of just going straight down the line, more of that chaos ball to get their attack back on track. So this year they've had 6 games decided by under 10 points. They've lost 4 of them, which is sort of a regression to the mean after Craig McRae's first 2 years in charge, when they won many of those close games. What lever can he pull to change this forward line then? You've mentioned those key forwards. Is Jordan Ngoe I think Jordan Ngoe needs to go back to being a key forward almost, or a deeper forward. That speed, he's very good, you know, one-on-one. He's got that body strength. I think that's an option for them, because they don't really have any key forwards to bring in. You could put Mason Cox back in the forward line, you know, as just someone you can kick to bring it to ground and be more predictable. But for me, it's a Ngoe type, and then the obvious one is Bobby Hill, who adds a lot of dynamic element to their game. But you know, whether Bobby's going to come back in, who knows? Yeah, well, let's have a listen to what Craig McRae said after the game regarding Bobby Hill.
Yeah, we're pretty healthy at the moment. No injuries at VFL, no injuries here at this stage. How he should be available through protocols. Bobby's getting better every day. Not sure he'll be available next week, but it's pleasing to have him back this week, training hard for us, and yeah, we might strengthen up a little bit, especially with someone like Howie available.
So Bobby Hill's just played 40 minutes of AFL footy since round 16. That's 2 months. It's a big risk to bring him in finals. I mean, Collingwood are going to play VFL finals. I know they had a loss against Port Melbourne this weekend, but he could be that trump card they desperately need. Yeah, he definitely could be, and I was surprised he didn't play on the weekend against us at Port Melbourne yesterday, just because I thought he needed condition, but I think it was he wanted to travel with the team. But he didn't actually end up travelling with the team. Right. So there's a few unanswered questions around Bobby Hill and his assimilation back into this group. But it's difficult for them. What I do know about Collingwood's coaching group is they go to school and they're one of the best coaching groups in the competition. And what they've done over the last 3 years or 4 years since Craig McRae's come in is change the game to a certain extent, what things they've done. So I believe that you will see a very different Collingwood going into the finals. But this week is a massive game for them. We touch on the Crows. We've got to give them another pump up. They are sitting on top of the ladder. At the start of the year, we all thought they were just going to kick the big cricket scores and make their way to finals by out attacking sides. But you've liked what they've done in defence. Yeah, well, Matthew Nicks, I thought at the start of the year, very much an attacking coach, 160 to 100 Essendon they won earlier in the year. And talking to Roy Sloane, who was saying, isn't it great their attack? And he was adamant that Matthew Nicks was a defensive coach. Now, that's what's proved to come. The way they've defended, particularly I thought on the weekend, the way they've adjusted against
against Hawthorn. Hawthorn got them in the first quarter. That defence adjusted and came back. And this week against Collingwood, and Collingwood kicked 5 goals in the first quarter, only 8 for the game. That defence adjusted with, Worrell, Keane. Those guys have just come into their own and, could be all-Australian defenders.
Yeah, I think Worrell could easily be an all-Australian. I think a pump-up for Adelaide is also due because they're going to be minor premiers. Like, they're going to finish first. They'll beat North Melbourne next week from 15th in the ladder. Let's not forget 5 years ago, they finished last. They were last 5 seasons ago. We've spoken about their rebuild. Yes, they've got bigger fish to fry in finals, but to go from 15th to 1st is a remarkable effort. There was an incident towards the end of last night's game which caused some debate in the minutes following the match. It was Riley Thilthorpe, who was clearly...
trying to flick it up to the umpire.
Trying to flick it up to the umpire, but in the end, that probably is time wasting. The news on this is the AFL will assess it tomorrow and probably reveal whether the umpire got it right or wrong. But it was at a crucial time of the game, Jimmy. What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought that was black and white. That's a free kick. You can't do that, even if you are trying to flick it to the umpire. So I don't think it has to be overcomplicated, does it?
It might be a free kick, but why is it time wasting? I mean, as soon as it goes out of bounds...
They call it time wasting.
Because by the time you get the ball back, you can actually... It's more time. You're not actually wasting time off the clock, but you're giving your team more time.
Fremantle kicked 5 goals, 14 the other night against the Brisbane Lions. They had what could have been the biggest home and away game in Justin Longmuir's tenure and a chance to really lock themselves into finals. And there's no other way to put it. They failed against a hungry Brisbane Lions team, and Justin Longmuir was pretty blunt post-match.
Felt like it was the first time we've been in that position for a while. We've probably felt the pressure of the game and lacked a little bit of composure to finish our work off. Bad kicking becomes contagious. The shots that we missed weren't all difficult, and 0-8, that becomes contagious.
So the use of the word contagious there, Hirdy and Jimmy, I find fascinating because it sort of points to mental fragility and the inability to move on from past mistakes. So how do you fix that as a coach?
But it's also about shot selection. Like, coaches and players talk about bad kicking. It's where you're having your kicks from. A couple of those kicks were outside 50 or on 50. You've got to be better at where you have your shots from. Realise that 80% of the scores come from a zone that's, this 45 degrees out and about 40 metres out. Those kicks are unrealistic. I do think, yes, if you start missing goals, it does get contagious. But the good teams kick straight.
Did they get stage fright, Freo, Jimmy?
I think they ran into a pretty hungry Brisbane side who we've seen respond really well over the last couple of years. The Lions have been up near the pointy end for, 6-7 years?
It's the 7th year playing finals.
Yeah, so I think sometimes the motivation factor for the Lions, Fags can roll out there and say, this is the most important game. Yeah. And sometimes the players go, well, is it? But when they are ready to play, the Lions are pretty tough to beat. But I've got a question for you, Tom. Of course, Simon Garlick was at pains to explain the new contract situation with Justin Longmuir.
The rolling contract.
The rolling contract. Surely he's fine, even if they do miss, because we did highlight the fact you could be 14, 15 wins and miss the finals.
Yeah, we said at the start of the year that Matthew Nicks would lose his job, and he was aware of this if Adelaide missed finals. I don't think it's quite the same with the Dockers. I think if they win 15 games out of 23... in most measures, that's a pretty good season.
That's top 4 normally.
Brisbane Lions won 14 games last year in the home and away season and won the flag. So they would be disappointed to play finals. I think Hirdy, they would be expecting to play finals, but I don't think it would cost Justin Longmuir his job.
I think it'd be very tough to cost him his job. I think they've improved. I think they've improved the wins. I just want to show some vision, though, of what I thought. That they didn't handle the pressure of the day. Talked about composure, Justin Longmuir, and he's exactly right. Some of the handballing compared to Brisbane are a fantastic team with the ball in hand, but they're also good defensively. And the simple errors, just pause here. We're just going to pause here. You just see Brayshaw and Sirikowski. They should be running away from the ball here so they can create space. That's something that just shows lack of composure and the ability with the ball. They just didn't have it on the night, and the difference between Brisbane and Fremantle to me was stark. Because of this, with the ball in hand, they weren't up to standard, were they, Jimmy?
Yeah, they just kept coming forward, Brisbane. I know that makes it sound too simplistic, but if you keep coming forward, you force the extra handball, and if someone's rolling up behind, they actually pointed to how connected Brisbane were. When you consider how many injuries they had going into that, or they've had throughout the year, that's normally where you break down a bit of that connection, but they've done an incredible job.
And we talk about injuries. I think injuries are going to define this final series to a certain extent because teams are so even. I mean, that Brisbane injury list is very long. I know they're getting
Jared Berry with a dislocated shoulder. Yeah. They think it's unlikely he'll play the next game, but hoping they can get him right for finals. That's a big one. It's a big one for the Lions. And the Dockers, of course, can finish as high as 4th, but as low as 9th. So that game against the Dogs next Sunday is huge. Players tomorrow night, this show is going from strength to strength. Don't miss it. You can watch it on YouTube at 7 p.m, I think it is, but also after Footy Classified, which Jimmy's on. Charlie Curnow is one of the guests tomorrow night. So is Jaden Short and Cal Shadir. What a season he's having for the Hawks at his absolute best. He looks to be a real player of the future and also a player of the present. So that's Players with Felix doing a fantastic job on YouTube and also and after Footy Classified on Channel 9. Like a fine wine, Jack Gunston is our player of the round thanks to Lexus of Blackburn and also our hot hand as well. What an unbelievable season he's having, guys. 60 goals he's kicked for the year, 7 goals for against the Demons and poor 250-gamer Steve May. Surely he's in your All-Australian team if you select it today.
You'd think so. And was it 2 years ago? He was at the Lions and couldn't get a game? You know, it's a remarkable career up until then. I think everyone thought he was going up for a summer holiday and a bit of cash, but he's turned his career around and well done.
So the issue is that his back has been plaguing him for some time, and he went away in the off-season with some younger teammates, and his philosophy was, I'm going to work as hard as I can, and if my back goes, well, I'm probably done anyway. Anyway, his back, touch wood, has held together, and he's having a phenomenal season. 60 goals with 2 VFL games in there as well, Jimmy. Yeah,
it's incredible. And even during some of those seasons where he's kicked 50, he'd venture up the ground, he'd drop behind the footy, play a little bit high. He's definitely a lot deeper forward these days, but I love actually watching him in the craft, the way he actually sets up to get on the leads. He takes the opposition's defender off the line really well. He can butter up front and square, knows when to get out the back. It's so good to watch.
And those in the know say he had an unbelievable training block for a 33-year-old or anyone, really, between January 1 and when the game started at the start of March as well. He really he did everything he could to get himself fit, and he's getting the rewards now. So the result was 36 points, and what it means for the Hawks here is they can finish as high as 3rd and as low as 8th, a bit like Collingwood as well. So what did we learn from this game for the Hawks, do you think? How deep do we think they can go?
Oh, I think they're the real deal. I think they can go very, very deep. I just think that, you know, it's still that midfield. I think whether that midfield can stand up against the Brisbanes or and we'll find out on the weekend, won't we, against Brisbane, where that midfield can stand up. Because if they're able to get the ball off the line into space and with good ball movement, quick ball movement, they're very hard to stop.
And I love that they're backed in the 4 tools on the forward line. It is now, people go, hang on, it won't be a liability, it'll be a point of difference. And Hirdy touched on their ball movement off the line. If we go back about 6 weeks, they lost a little bit of their, call it tempo in the game, and we highlighted the opposition taking out the release mark, and it didn't sound like a real sexy thing, but that's actually what kick-starts Hawthorn, and I reckon a player who's so key to that, and if you're the opposition playing Hawthorn, is Dylan Moore. We know he's a star, he's an All-Australian, but you have a look at a lot of his possessions here, he's actually one of the starters in the chain, so he got the first one, and then he keeps moving, so he's often this player who comes up on the opposite channel or through the middle of the ground, he kick-start, and then he gets involved in the passage of play, so he's either there first for a release to get rid of that pressure from out of their back line, but then he resets the forward line, Hirdy, which I know you love from forward. So there he is up in the back part of the ground, gets him going, shifts it because he's good ball use and decision making, but his work rate, that's why he often hits the scoreboard really early in games. It's normally from getting up really high past the logos and he comes back in, but had 30 touches, 2 goals, an absolute gun. He's pretty much a 20-touch goal a game player again this year.
It's a great point, Jimmy, because we now defend 80 metres from the ball or 90 metres from the ball and the width is, 40 or 50. If you can just get that ball out and break that first line, you're not kicking it up and high and defenders can't set up behind the ball. You just need a little bit of space to get it out and break that bubble, and suddenly the ground's so much bigger than it was. So he's a very important player.
So that game against the Brisbane Lions is massive for the Hawks next week to decide where they're going to finish in this top 8. Yes, mathematically they can get to 2nd, but more likely 3rd or 4th. If they win, if they lose, they can finish as low as 8th. The Dogs, another big win for them today. They love beating up on lesser teams, don't they? 94 points was the margin at Marvel Stadium. As you saw, Bailey Dale was prolific. Aaron Norton, again, in a rich vein of form. Take us through the Lexus of Blackburn key moments, Hirdy.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Well, we all love watching the Bulldogs when they get their hands on the ball and move the ball, but today they just really destroyed the West Coast Eagles, and the Eagles can't, end of the season can't come quickly enough. Sam Davidson setting up Sam Darcy, you started really well, and I know he's one of your favourites, Jimmy. You'd travel almost anywhere in the world to watch him play. Joel Frazier snapping an early second quarter goal, which just really set the Dogs alight in that second quarter. And Ed Richards snapping a goal. Ed Richards, what a player he's become in that midfield. Bond kicking goal from one step. Bond did some things today which just showed to me he's the best player in the competition. And Riley West, I love Riley West, where he's come from and his work ethic in the play he's become. Bailey Williams taking... That's a pretty good specky there. And Aaron Norton kicking one of his 3 goals for the day. Really West Coast Eagles, Jimmy, I mean, is it all about youth and they don't have enough talent, or is it effort today? Because I think when the Bulldogs really started to get hold of them, Bont with 31, 2 goals, Ed Richards 25 and 2 goals, Bailey 34 possessions, they just didn't have it.
Yeah, just outclassed across the field. And then if you've got the class of Richards and then the Bont, of course, and you've got the two big targets in great form in Darcy and Norton, who are pretty tough to stop, but they were in a different competition today.
So do you think they are flat track bullies? Do you think the Bulldogs have what it takes? Because they just haven't quite been able to do it against the better teams and really failed. This weekend against Freo is probably their first final.
I think they've got the capability to definitely challenge. We saw them touch the Giants up a few weeks ago with that midfield power. So for them, and it's pretty similar to what we talked to about with Collingwood, it's important when they actually don't win it from a contest or a clearance where they're going to next, because that's where sides are getting them. And that's why the focus then comes back to, well, is their back six good enough? So their back six, you know, with a couple of players loving to really charge off the back line, it can leave them exposed. So I mentioned this a few weeks ago. Do you add someone different in the personnel around the ball, or do you do a structural thing where you actually give them a little bit of a cover like a goalkeeper, at least to slow down the ball movement?
I don't think it's necessarily about their back six. I think that midfield has to actually learn to defend better when they don't have the ball, and also you may have to structurally put something behind the ball.
And champion data tells us that the two best players in the competition since round 12 are Marcus Bontempelli and Ed Richards, so they've got star power, but they've only beaten one other top 8 team for the entire year, and that's the Giants twice. That's why the Fremantle game is such a big challenge. And they've got a plethora of father-son players coming through, and another one today, Hirdy.
Yes, they have. They have, I mean, Croft, who's fantastic. We're going to talk about him in our snapshots, but he's 2 goals, 1. I just love the marking power. There's about 2 or 3 minutes in the third quarter, I think it was, or the second quarter, sorry, where he scintillated. Aaron Norton small.
Come on, Aaron.
Small the party. That was going to be his first, Jordan Croft's first goal, but Aaron Norton, I think, could just let it go there, couldn't he?
How many father-sons can one
have a look
have?
at this, mate. This, mate, just, I mean, this takes some rare talent. I've seen Jimmy take a couple of those, but you or I couldn't take those, Tom.
No way, certainly not me. No, it's just amazing. And there's his dad as well. You would have played on his dad a few times?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah, very good player. But there's something in the water with the Darcys and the Crofts and the Wests all coming through. Libba, exactly, yeah.
Don't tell St Kilda, don't tell Freo. They don't like the father-son rule at all. Maybe it's a conversation.
But it is remarkable. There's 4 of them that have come through out of that late 80s, 90s era that are, turned out to be very, very good players. If he's anywhere near as good as the other 3, that's very, very good.
Could win you a flag. Will Ashcroft was Norm Smith medalist last year, and we saw how good Gary Ablett Jr. was for the Geelong.
He could play.
Yeah, there's lots of examples of it, and that's part of the reason that some clubs don't like it at all. But that is, as I said, a conversation for another day. Geelong eventually overran the Sydney Swans by 43 points. Jeremy Cameron didn't kick a goal, disappointingly for us who have been supporting to get to 100 goals. But nevertheless, it was a convincing performance by the Cats. They've won 8 of their last 10. And this locked them into a final spot and gave them a chance, potentially, to finish first next week if results go their way, Jimmy. Take us through the Lexus of Blackburn key moments.
That's right, Tom. It was sore for your back pocket as well, but it was very good for the Cats. It was the Lizard King, Nick Blakey's 150th game, been such an entertaining player, and had some really good passage of play early, the Swans, where the ball movement was back to what we expect. Great kickers, all those left footers. They had ripping the ball up to the middle. Tyson Stengel was fantastic today. Jack Martin getting behind the Swans to kick a goal from the square. Myers finishing from the boundary line the run. Shannon Neal kicked 4 goals today, was really strong early, big contested mark. He's in red-hot form. Interesting running battle with Heaney and O'Connor here. They had a couple of wrestles going on and got under his skin as well. Stengel's goal, as I touched on, he just was the strongest man in the gym there. He was able to flip some players off his hip. Sean Manor was in great form, 19 touches and 3 goals. And Dempsey off the wing just keeps kicking goals and taking lots of hangers. And Danger just getting back to his groove at the start of the year as well. So being a real threat on the forward line. Tom Stewart was magnificent today, 25 touches, 9 intercepts. Bailey Smith had 30 touches. And for the Swans, Blakey was probably their best with 23 and lots of inside 50s. And Big Laddams, 17 touches, 2 goals, filling in for Brodie Grundy, of course, being in the concussion protocol.
Although they won quite convincingly in the end with 40-odd points, it was a really important game for Geelong around the contest. The Swans made it a real contest. It was a hard contested game, particularly the first half, because their run into the finals has been quite soft. I mean, they haven't played some, really good teams.
Is that good or bad?
Well, I think it's bad if you don't treat the games properly. I mean, the game against Essendon was that last week. It wasn't a high-quality game. That's why this game was important, because particularly the first half, the contest and the way they had to win the ball sharpened them up for in a couple of weeks.
Chris Scott, after the game, spoke about the surface at the SCG, which has been labelled a number of different things throughout the year, but Jared Healy, who is a Swans great and doesn't mince his words when he means it, actually said it was embarrassing. This is what the Geelong coach had to say.
The contrast between quite soft area outside the centre square and then pretty rock-hard centre wicket area, that's just not conducive to AFL football. And so the strange part with so much rain is that it's covered all the time and you've got this baked, you know, it looked like Mumbai out there.
So, I mean, Chris Scott has been known to complain occasionally.
Well. Yeah. Oh, you definitely got a bat first on that.
You don't want
it's going to crumble.
No, turning square. But in all seriousness, the SCG, it's pretty embarrassing that the surface can continually be a talking point at a professional level. It's
not only just the quality of football; it's actually the injuries that come because you've got to make. If you're playing it, particularly in the middle of the ground, what sort of stops you wear? If you're really wearing longer stops on that hard surface, you slip and you. I mean, a teammate of mine broke his jaw on the MCG, you know, pre-season game, and sued the MCG for it, legitimately so, because it was an unsafe environment. So I haven't been there. I don't know what the look of it is, but you have to make it safe. And the ability that when you go to turn with your footwear, you know what you're turning on.
They don't take feedback well up there, though.
No, they don't.
They're incredibly sensitive about it. When we're just going off what we see. And I remember when the Dogs played there 3 or 4 weeks ago and it looked like Bondi Beach. Yeah. And we were so worried about Bailey Williams from the Dogs, where his ACL was going that way and his body was going that way. They were so lucky nothing came of that. So, but nothing will change.
Well, it should.
But it won't.
Greg Swan needs to go to the SCG and say, if this happens again, we can't have AFL football.
But we had this debate on here last time it happened, and I'd love to know whatever goes on to give the tick of approval, what is actually in those parameters, because when the Bulldogs played there, that wasn't up to scratch, and we played on. Chris Scott highlighted, you know, he'd definitely bat first and hopefully make 200 because he'd roll them out with leggies.
But once you've got a cricket wicket in the middle of the ground, it will be different. You can't have it. Even if they left it open, it was raining, it'd just be mud. Until they get rid of the cricket wicket, which I can't imagine the SCG trusts.
Well, other grounds are done.
Yeah, but they won't. They clearly don't want to go down that path, which is up to them. But that's what I'm saying. Well, what boxes are we ticking? Like nothing will change. I get it. We play on all surfaces for footy, so we'll just complain and it will remain the same.
Well, Tom Harley goes from the Swans to the AFL and hopefully he can have some sort of impact, a former teammate and a premiership captain of yours, Jimmy. Let's go to the Giants' win over Gold Coast on Saturday. It was an upset victory and the Giants, I've said it all year, I just can't work them out. This was a victory by 35 points. When they're good, they're great, even with lots of injuries. When they've been poor this year, they've been really, really bad. And it sets up a situation where they'll be playing finals, which is great for Adam Kingsley, great for his team, but I've got no idea what they're going to dish up in week 1.
Yeah, and they'll be one team definitely based on matchups, who they get in the first week or second week of finals, hopefully for them. But I want to just raise this. It's both the Giants topic and also the Suns, gentlemen, is did the Suns get beaten by what they know? And so you two are sick of me saying that the Giants are very good in playing your turn, our turn style of footy, and that means we'll have a go taking the ball down the ground. If we score, good. If we don't, you have a turn. So lots of inside forward 50s. So what I want to highlight here is this is very, very slow. This is a great intercept mark for Sam Taylor. And this is, I reckon, a room for improvement for the Suns. So I think they're doing a lot right, but they can tighten up this area. I give full credit to their forwards. Watch the amount of pressure their forwards put on. So great pressure. They're closing down from behind. That's Holman. Great tackle chase. Force the error. The Giants make their way out. So eventually, again, another turnover. They're scrambling. Doesn't turn their way. I know it's a free kick, but watch how much space this kick. This is on the midfield. Look at them just meandering through the middle of the ground. Pressure's gone. Ball goes up the other end of the ground. So the Giants had 11 exits from out of their back 50 in the first quarter. 10 of them ended up inside forward 50. Yep. So the next step for the Suns is we know they're stars when they got the ball. They're fantastic around clearance. They're attacking. Rowell, Anderson, all of them are very good players. But the next lad to send you to another level is squeeze the ground. Keep it in your front half. Don't expose your backline group and cut out the release because you can't ask much more of your forwards. They ran around running their tail off there.
But the same can be said for the Giants.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, 15 minutes later, even after those 11 exits led to 10 scores, the scores were level because it happened to the Giants the opposite way. I mean, the Giants, I agree with the Gold Coast, but the Giants and the Gold Coast, they play differently, have the same symptoms. Their midfield don't want to defend or don't want to keep the ball in the forward half of the ground. If with the Giants, if their pressure is not elite and they're not winning the ball, getting it going their way, the ball gets in their D50 too quickly, and they're lucky they've got those fantastic defenders down there. So I think they're symptomatic of each other. That's why I don't think either team will go that deep or win it, because that final piece, which is defending when you don't control the ball, it's just not there.
Gold Coast have 2 games left. We're expecting they beat Essendon after the season, but they can still technically miss the finals. What does it mean for Gold Coast if they either lose week 1 or don't make finals at all, given how star-studded this team is and how starved of success they are as well?
It'd be disappointing, especially where they are positioned right now. Like, I think we expected probably from about 3 or 4 weeks ago for them to play finals. They've got a lot of talent. I do keep highlighting the fact that Charlie Ballard is a big out because of their defensive structure with, Collins and Mac Andrew as well. But they've got rebounding half-backs. Obviously, Rioli been out for quite a few weeks now, but some talented midfield. Witts is a very, very good ruckman, doesn't get spoken about enough, and enough firepower to put up good scores.
Yeah, but you've got a hypothesis there, Tom, that just won't happen. They will make finals.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not losing to Essendon in 2, and they'll probably beat Port Adelaide. And whether they lose round 1 or in the finals or win,
matter, or?
I don't think that matters. I think the experience of getting there,
First ever.
Everyone says that the finals are a different game. Maybe not week 1. Once you get into week 2, week 3 of the finals, it's a very different game to round robin.
They win both those games. They finished with 16 wins, and then there are a red hot chance.
And that's a great year. 16 wins is a great year.
Yeah, and we've had the road to 16 from the very start of the year, and I've been barracking for them since the start. I've tempered that a little bit in recent weeks. All right. Let's go to Hobart today, where North Melbourne won its 5th game of the season. It's the first time since 2019 they've won 5 games, and it was their highest score, Jimmy, since August 17, 2019, which is 6 years to the day. Take us through the Lexus of Blackburn key moments.
Yeah, you heard the saying, Tom, if you couldn't get a kick today, you just couldn't get a kick. It was that much free-range football. You'd stat up. You'd have
25.
You'd have 25 easy, and it was... Come on, Tom. Tom Lynch was absolute monster in the first quarter. He took 4 contested marks, a couple of goals to finish 3 goals for and 6 contested marks. Cam Zurhaar, hopefully the scans come up well, because that looked really nasty. First we thought a knee, then it was an ankle. Maurice Rioli just kicking absolute beauty, check side. Harry Sheezel will be the highlights. He had it 5,500 times, which we'll touch on a little bit later. A couple of goals as well. Paul Curtis, he's still benching 270 kilograms. He kicked 5. He's an absolute
best
gun. You imagine if he didn't get those unlucky suspensions, he would be in conversations for the small forward spot. And Matt Whitlock, good on your son, kicking his first goal. Of course, North Melbourne traded a pick to get him in the door. Harry Sheezel, and Harry Sheezel highlights. He got a heap of it. So did Luke Davies-Uniacke, 40 and a goal. Trenbath, who's a bit of a late inclusion North, he kicked 3 as well. And Seth Campbell for the Tiggies, who I like as a footballer, hard-working small forward. He kicked 3 majors as well.
So the only reason we'll remember this game in 5 years' time is because Harry Sheezel picked up an AFL, VFL equal record of 54 disposals, equaling Tom Mitchell's record from a few years ago. What a performance it was. They let him run free, Hirdy. Before I get your thoughts, this is what Adam Uze had to say after the match about not letting anyone tag him.
At half-time, I think he had 20 odd, and the game was in the balance. The third quarter, I didn't see that as being a big issue, especially early. He did go forward and kick a couple of goals, so Jack Ross went to him for a little bit, and then obviously he's good enough to just go and change positions. And yeah, I think he ended up with 12 or 13 in the last quarter. We kicked 6 goals, so you're always looking at those numbers. But yeah, he obviously had a great game and he's a terrific kid.
So well done to Harry Sheezel, but what were the Tigers thinking, Hirdy?
Yeah, I think after he had 28 exactly in the first half and 26 and 2 in the second half for a total of 54, I think someone needs to go near him, or even tag just at stoppages, start on him around a stoppage or start on him around the ball, because for me, I just think that becomes a bit embarrassing for the Richmond Football Club that someone's able to get that many possessions. And good on him. That takes a lot of hard work, a lot of effort to get there. But 54 shows that the Richmond team were going that way, North Melbourne team were going that way, and they were definitely not going together.
You could have used it as a teaching moment. I get
what were you teaching?
No, I mean, like, by sending someone to Sheezel,
exactly, yeah.
And I know he's going to be too good. And I think that's the point Uze's making. Like, we're just playing footy out there, because it didn't really matter in the end, Tom, whether Richmond won or lost this game, because they own North Melbourne's pick. So even if they swap spots, it just means, well, one's technically pick 2 and one's technically pick 3. I know there's other stuff to happen, but as it just sits, if it was clean, because of that pick spot.
Question: If you were playing Geelong when you were playing, and Harry Sheezel was out there, if I was playing, and you're seeing this guy get so much ball, I'd go to. Come on, guys, let's stop him getting the ball. Even if not tagging, this guy's getting too much. One of you go, like Dion Pressey, just go and stand next to him and stop him getting it.
They didn't tag Naz, was it the week before, and he had 40.
Yeah.
So I think the way he's setting up to teach him, I don't think he
But even if
must
it's not
believe it.
tagging, as leaders in that team, don't you just want to go, no, we're going to stand next to you at a stoppage, and we're going to hold you and stop you, or every time we'll just someone get near him. That to me shows a pride in the team that a young team, I suppose, needs to learn.
Nick Gunston got injured in that game as well and looks unlikely to play next week. Hopefully he's back for the start of pre-season. Let's go to Marvel Stadium yesterday, where Carlton had a win against Port Adelaide. The margin was 54 points. And I was intrigued to listen to Ken Hinkley after this game. It just feels like they're limping towards the finish line. They're not going to play finals. And they could have really used this last 6 to 8 weeks to learn more about Josh Carr, learn more about the group for next year. But instead, I think they've wasted time. And this is their coach after the match.
Glad it's here. I'm sick of the. To be honest, I'm sick of the wait. It's been a bit of a battle to get to the end.
Me and Vossi get on great. Yeah, I think they're manageable. I don't think there's any issue with manageable, but I think, is it realistic? Probably not.
So I love Ken Hinkley's honesty. He's forthright. He's self-deprecating. But
So where do you think he'll be next year?
I've got no idea where he's going to be next year. Where do you think he's going to be next year?
I reckon he'll take some time off and genuinely consider it. I don't think he's going to apply for anything. I think he'll sit back and see if anything comes to him. You've got to remember the soft cap going up actually helps. Well, you know, people like Ken Hinkley, that director of coaching or that senior figure. So the increase in soft cap allows you to add people like whether it be he or Simon Goodwin or any other senior figures, if John Longmire wanted to come back in the game, or Adam Simpson, any of those guys with long coaching history. Yeah,
he'd be great for Andrew McQualter at West Coast, I reckon. He'd also be great for the Tasmanian team, especially if Nathan Buckley takes that role. So he shouldn't be lost to football, but I can't help but think it's a bit of a wasted year in the end.
You just look at him, and I'm glad he's so honest about saying I'm sick of it. I'm just sick of the speculation. I'm sick of the year, and why wouldn't you have a year off? I mean, his coaching stocks are not going to go down. You've seen Adam Simpson's and John Longmire's coaching stocks have gone up since they've had a year off.
Yeah.
Why would you not take a break?
Sam Walsh returned yesterday. He could have easily sat out the rest of this season. They can't play finals, the Blues. I think he had 28 disposals in the end, and he's playing the last 2 games now. And just watching this game, Jimmy, it made me think, is he actually Carlton's most important player when he's up and going? It doesn't mean he's their best player. Because he can use the ball and run, that's something they can't find elsewhere. Yeah, he's incredibly important for that. If you were to do the depth chart of players who can run that hard, kick the ball, drive it forward as well, and they're the players you need. They need him fit and well. So we can't have him coming into the season again off the back of another back injury, or he's making the race to opening round. So need to get his pre-season right, and that comes with him as well, a bit of ownership and maturity of what, you know, suits your body best. So they need a fit and well Sam Walsh if they're going to turn it around next year.
They need to keep their spine, and he's a very important part of their spine with Patrick Cripps in the middle of the ground with the forwards. They just need to keep that, and I think they'll be a very good team shortly if they can keep their spine together. And I would say, aside from Nasai Wanganeen-Miller this year, he's the most important signature for his club in the entire competition. He's out of contract end of next year. He's a free agent. Clubs will offer him big money if he's fully fit. And he deserves that money as well because, of course, he's been a good player for quite some time.